5 ideas. That's all that it takes to change how you move through today. Not next year, not tomorrow, not someday, but today. So go ahead and grab your hot tea or coffee, whatever it is you partake in, and let's go through these 5 principles. These 5 principles, they come from 2 traditions that on the surface look nothing alike, but they are 2 schools of thought that I've been invested in heavily throughout the course of my life and which have had monumental impacts on my life. So these principles, they come from Hermetic teachings and Buddhist philosophy. But dig deeper, and these are both 2 different things that point at the same one truth. So let's get into it. So principle number 1 is the principle of mentalism. The Kybalion text states it simply, saying that the all is mind and the universe is mental. Your thoughts, they're not just commentary on your life. They are the first cause. Before the outcome, before the circumstance, there's the mind that interpreted it all. Change the lens and you change what you're looking at entirely. So let's delve a little bit deeper into our first point of reference here, and that is the Kybalion. And our tea of the day today is Earl Grey, which I have gently sweetened with some blue agave. 10 out of 10. So, how can you use principle number 1 to impact your own life in a positive way? So, to understand this, let's use a practical example. And for that, we'll imagine 2 people losing the same job in the same day. So person A, we can call them Fred, and person B will be Janet. So Fred, he takes his job loss very negatively. He sees it as concrete proof that he is not enough. He can hear his mother's voice telling him that because his grades were bad in high school, that he'll never amount to anything. And then later on in college, she finds out that he dropped out one semester and tells him that the only job that he'll ever maintain is this job that he's been working at a restaurant as a server. And so he's spiraling, he's hearing his mother's voice, he's hearing the voices of classmates that he's gone to school with. He's seeing things on social media, other people that he's known that are working these jobs, making 5-6 figures, and he's just getting really down on himself. He wanted so badly to silence those voices, and this was his very first office job. So losing it, he's almost worse off than where he was before he got the job, because now it is confirmed that he is in fact not good enough to keep such a job. This is the narrative that he's spinning for himself. When he applies to another job in the very near future, he decides to go back to the steakhouse he was working at, or gets a job at another restaurant, same caliber. And then he never attempts to do anything else because he allows this narrative that he's spun to dictate how his reality shapes itself. What does Janet do with her job loss? She uses it as an opportunity to pursue something even greater than this office job that she didn't even like working that much. It paid her bills. She had extra money to spend, but it was very monotonous and she didn't get much fulfillment out of it. So she sees this as one door closing and another door opening. What could lie behind that new door? Nobody knows, but she sees this as an adventure, as something fresh. And this forward momentum, it'll keep building and building, because Janet refuses to see a setback as a setback. She sees it as untapped potential. And so these are two totally different realities, built entirely in the mind before either character could play out a scenario. And that's what the principle of mentalism is. It dictates that our realities are 100% built in the mind before the physical universe can even have a chance to restructure around us. And it's easy to apply this one. It's hard on a day-to-day basis if you don't remind yourself to do it. Like in my early 20s, when I was studying philosophy and like Buddhism and Hermetic teachings very heavily and applying them very heavily, like I was meditating for an hour every day, things just didn't bother me as much. I could endure a setback with a smile on my face almost every single time, because I didn't see the outside world as a reflection of my inner world as much as I did later on, after I, for instance, went through traumas and I struggled with drug addiction. All of that, it lessened and lessened and lessened my self-worth, and I fell off of these teachings. It's like I forgot, and I was taking everything personally. Every setback was a reflection of my own self-worth and my own capacity and potential, and I had to get back to it. And so, this is a big one. That's why I put it number one on the list. So when I look up the definition of right mindfulness, what I get is right mindfulness means maintaining a clear, grounded, and focused awareness of the present moment, including one's body and one's thoughts. And what I've learned from meditation is that the thoughts that spring up in your head, being subject to those thoughts and observing those thoughts are two different things. And you can't really be present in the moment until you learn to be an observer, to step back and to just watch those thoughts flow back and forth like water. Whereas when you step into them, you get swept away by the current. And so, it's impossible to be present then. Right mindfulness is so important, and it's exceedingly rare these days, because society has fostered this ADHD mind from the time that we're infants. Toddlers running around with iPads, the term iPad kids, it's sad. And so nobody has the attention span for longer content, more meaningful content. All we can handle is like 30 seconds at a time. That's why, media outlets like TikTok and stuff are so popular nowadays, because our minds can only handle that much. Our brains are wired to receive short bursts of dopamine from short bursts of media. It's just the truth of it. And through it all, we're not truly present. We can even be watching videos about being present and not being present. Every moment on autopilot is a moment that is happening to you, not a moment that you are living or experiencing. So when you think about it that way, how much of your life are you actually living? And I've fallen victim to this, still fall victim to it. Trauma caused me to regress a lot. I was studying these Eastern philosophies and esoteric ways of thinking and living very heavily when I was in my early 20s. And I fell off. And a big factor in that was the trauma that I went through. After going through some horrendous things, all I wanted to do was find some place comfortable and cozy that I could curl up in with a hot cup of tea. I'll admit it, I liked to smoke weed and play video games. That was something that I did, and that was a big form of escapism that I took part in. I've always liked video games, but when I would smoke, it helped me immerse myself even deeper. I would really forget about the outside world, and I could live in these fantastical medieval fantasy or sci-fi themed worlds. I didn't have to think about my life here. Escapism is what we do also when we're constantly living in the past or in the future. That's escapism too. And that's where most of us reside. Few of us are ever truly right here, right now. That's crazy to think, but that's the truth. The Noble Eightfold Path, noble, because it's something that if you practice this Noble Eightfold Path, it says a lot about your character, because this path teaches right mindfulness, right speech, right actions. And all of these things are born out of love and respect for other sentient beings. And so the three primary categories of this path are wisdom, ethical conduct, and mental discipline. And I'm pulling from the third category, the mental discipline part, because that's the theme of this video, that our thoughts create our realities. And so an example of right mindfulness would be to just practice some presence today. Take a moment to just sit and meditate, to sit in silence, not drown out the world with, I like to just have a headset on or AirPods in, and I like to listen to documentaries or think pieces a lot. But it's important to just sit in your silence, because how can you receive messages from the universe if you're always drowning out your own inner silence? There's no space for it. It's important. And it's important to know yourself intimately, because we're born into this world with just, it's just us. We don't come into it holding anyone's hand. It's just us. And we leave it the same way. And so I like to think that we would all like to leave here knowing ourselves well enough to leave without regrets, or to even understand what the next chapter holds. But I do think that all the wisdom we need to know is already there within us. I do not think it's outside of us. But if you're constantly drowning out your own self, then that wisdom can't reach you. Right? Mindfulness is so, 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 so important. Nothing rests, everything moves, everything vibrates. That's again from the Kybalion. And this is principle number 3, the principle of vibration. Fear feels like a fact when you're deep in it. But it's not fixed, it's frequency. Everything is frequency. States move. Which means that the version of you that's spiraling at 2 a.m. is not more true than the version of you that's steady and grounded at noon. You can shift. And that's the leverage point that most people miss. You don't have to out-argue fear. You just have to shift the state that it's living in. Breath, movement, sound, environment, and watch how much of what you felt was truth was actually just vibration. Your frequency has to change before your thought pattern can change. You can think something differently, but if you're still feeling the same feelings, those thoughts are just gonna go right back to where they were. And so that's why at the heart of everything is this principle of vibration, this principle of frequency. If you can tune that frequency to something else, change the way that you vibrate, change the way that you feel, and you change the way that reality exists around you. It is truly that simple. Principle number 4 is the principle of impermanence, or Annica. It is a core Buddhist teaching. All conditioned things are impermanent. To me, this felt so poetic. This principle of impermanence is just something about it. When I first got into these Buddhist teachings, the way that a lot of these lamas and practitioners wrote about impermanence was, to me, very beautiful. The Buddha himself said that whatever has the nature of arising has the nature of ceasing. Anyone who has lost something that they thought was theirs forever finally comes to realize that nothing really belongs to them. Nothing. We are leasing these bodies and leasing this time here on this planet. And so that's why it baffles me when I watch this documentary about how in China they're making strides toward digital consciousness uploading, where you can upload your consciousness theoretically onto a computer and live forever in the digital realm. They played around a lot with this in the game Cyberpunk 2077. It's a great game. But this idea of like trapping your consciousness in a digital world, to me, is terrifying. And it also takes the beauty out of this existence, I think. That's why there's this whole trope about immortal beings finding condemnation in their immortality, like these vampire stories and stuff. Those vampires end up resenting whoever it was that turned them into vampires in the first place, because now they can't die, or at least not easily, and they have to watch all of their loved ones age and die before them and watch the world change. Most pain isn't the loss itself. We lose people and it hurts, but it's not the loss itself that's hurting us, it's the narrative that we've written. We write stories in our own minds all the time, and then the emotions that we feel are tied to these narratives. Because in Eastern traditions, for instance, death is celebrated, and so instead of a period of mourning, everyone comes together and celebrates this deceased person, because that person is on another stage of their journey. Their life force is moving on to somewhere else. But here, we mourn the people who are past, and it makes it so hard on everyone. A lot of times, people remain stuck in that grief for a very long time, if not for the rest of their lives. And that's very sad, because that's a whole frequency shift. Now, all of a sudden, you're going to attract things of a lower frequency, all because you had love for this person And now that love in your mind has nowhere to go. Pain is this refusal to loosen our grip on things that were never meant to be permanent in the first place. Because of these stories, that temporary things were promised. We make stories up that temporary things were promised to be permanent in our lives. And then we feel betrayed when they change. When change was the deal at the very beginning. Principle number 5. I am drawing from the Kybalion again. Principle number 5 is the principle cause and effect, as depicted and analyzed in Hermetic texts. So this one, just summed up, states that nothing that we do today is overlooked. Nothing. The smallest choice that we make is compounded into one big consequence 4 weeks later. A lot of times, we'll be sitting alone in our rooms, dwelling on something that happened or hasn't happened yet. And whatever it is we're doing, we're sure that none of that has any effect on anything else. Like, nobody sees us here laying in bed, texting, scrolling, talking to so-and-so about whatever. These things seem so minute and so separate from everything that it seems hard to believe that those things are important at all in the grand scheme of things. But this principle states that everything, every single thought, word, deed, all of it is interconnected, and all of it carries weight. We love to feel like the victims of circumstance. People love to feel like the victims of circumstance. After my long stint with substance abuse, I used my circumstances that I had overcome, I used those as a crutch, and I excused a lot of time wasted. I had justified it based on what I'd gone through, because at least I wasn't doing things that would land me either in a grave or in prison. And so it didn't really matter if I was wasting time, because at least I wasn't doing anything bad with my time. But it's a very harmful place to be in when you're constantly playing the victim of circumstance. And oftentimes bad luck is just small causes that we stopped tracking. So what I mean by that is every little thought that we send out into the universe, every word spoken, every piece of gossip that we put out there, every act of, I don't know, making fun of another person or commenting on another person's appearance, making them feel good, all of that is also frequency based. Pulling back from principle number 4, every bit of it is a piece of frequency that we throw out there into the universe. And that's what this principle of cause and effect means when it says that nothing is overlooked. In the grand scheme of things, everything, every little thing carries weight and importance. And so bad luck, or some people, they'll say, oh, I have all this karmic debt, all this bad karma. They're not thinking about all these thoughts that they're putting out into the universe every day before bed, or while they're at work, they're thinking these horrible things about their coworkers or whatever. All of that also contributes to your frequency. So you might be doing things that a spiritual person would do, or a loving person would do, but you're still reaping the consequences of these negative frequencies. And so it's important to remember this principle of cause and effect, because it plays into your everyday life. There will be consequences for everything that you put out into the universe. That's why it's so important to watch yourself with care. Everything arises from something else. So a thought, something as seemingly inconsequential as a thought, eventually culminates to an action that carries great weight and might impact the trajectory of your life. Started with a small thought, a small seed, and grows into this great big oak tree of branching possibilities. That's why you have to watch your thoughts with care, because those are the seeds for everything that comes after. Everything starts with thought, and thought is frequency. You are always writing the next chapter of your life, one small choice at a time, whether you're conscious of it or not. And so I implore you to try to be more conscious of these things. And then you can dial things back to where they originated. Or you can watch your thoughts with care so that you avoid some of that, what you previously thought was bad luck. Nothing that you do today will disappear into nothing. 5 principles, one thread connecting them all. You are not as powerless, as stuck, or as automatic as you have been trained to feel. Pick one, just one of these principles, and strive to live it. Not just know it, but live it. And then let me know in the comments which one of these hit the hardest. If you haven't already, please subscribe. It helps me tremendously. I'm so grateful that you chose to spend your time here with me today. I love you guys. Till next time.